All right, we're back. It is COMP125. That's client-side web development, summer 2016 semester, and it's week 13, part 4 of our contents that we're going to be doing for this semester. So where last we left off, we had this button. I moved it to the right because someone asked me to move it to the right. We did that with a little bit of, if you look at our index.html, I've used a little bit of Bootstrap here to do that, but we're going to get rid of the Bootstrap for a second. This piece, because we want to move it to the left a little bit. And I had the canvas element outside of the container object, but now I'm going to put it back. So if I do that, you can see it's on the left now. All right, so we've got our container object, and I can click it, and it can change from hello to goodbye. But this is nice, but I want to do my hover effects, right, as an example. And for this, just to make it more interesting, my click me background is white, which kind of makes it difficult to see the effects. But what I could do is I want to change my button for a second so that my background is a different color. Like, let's say make it so that the background is more a blue color, right? And we'll make the text a white color, all right? Again, contrast is what it is. See how it looks with white? Nah, maybe another color. Make some other weird color, like yellow. Yellow and blue make it look pretty good. Red, I can make it red too. Right, there we go. Red and blue look pretty cool. So what I want to do, I want to save this object back into my button. Once I've saved it back into my button, if I refresh, I can see that my button now is red and blue. Well, a little bit weird colors and a little bit hard to see, but you've asked me for red and blue, and so it is. Right? Okay, so what I want to do is I want to hover over this. The reason why I want some color is I want to hover over this thing, and I want it to go transparent. Right? We talked about this. And again, the way to do that, to see how it works, is if I go to my click me button, .on, I've got that. Let's do a couple more events. So I'll say, I'll just copy this thing a couple times. So copy and paste it twice, right? But if I want every button to have a mouse over and mouse out, I want every button to have mouse over and mouse out, right? That means that's a good call for a class. Instead of click me button clicked, click me button, we'll call this over, and click me button out. We'll make 2 events. We don't have those right now, we'll add them in. So we'll kind of copy this, and we'll put them in. Right? A couple of functions. So this is click me button over, and this will be click me button, oops, out. Right, there we go. And what I want to do is my hello label, I don't want to change that, but I want to change my click me button, right, .alpha. I want to make that equal to 0.7 like we did. So again, 30% transparent. You can make it whatever you want. You can make it half transparent if you want, right? And when I kind of hover back in, I'm going to copy this for a second and put this over here. When I hover out again, what I want is for it to go back to normal. So I want to toggle back to 100% solid, right? All right, so I've got that functionality, and let's go back to this, and just to make sure I refresh. And if I hover over, you can see now that I've got a bit of a hover event, right? So I hover in. You can see it's transparent while I'm hovering in. When I hover out, it's solid. So it kind of gives you that, different functionality. So of a button. So goodbye. But what if I hover back? When I click on it, every time I click on it, I want it to go from goodbye to hello, right? How do I do that? That's simple, right? So it's in my click event, right? So if I click, my click event says hello label.text goodbye, right? Now I could set it up so that I detect that it already has been clicked once, right? And I could say that if my hello label text is goodbye, then I want to make a hello and whatever, right? How do I do that? So here's the way to do it. I could say something like if hello label.text is exactly equal to, so triple equal means exactly equal to, it's both a string type, right, as an example, and it has to have the same what I have here, which is good. Sorry, hello. I'll make sure it's correct. hello world, right? If it's this, then what do I want to do? I want to do hello label goodbye. Otherwise, I want to toggle and make it hello label hello world. Right? So when we have a if else like this, one if else though, it makes me think of, let's make sure that it's correct, hello world, yes, hello world. It makes me think of the ternary operator. I can use a ternary operator in one line to do the same thing, right? And how would I do that? It would be like this, hello label text is equal to, and I put the conditional statement, hello label text equal to hello world, then goodbye, otherwise hello. Let's try this out and see what I'm talking about. So first I'll do it this way, and then I'll use a ternary operator to do the same way. So I click onto it, goodbye, click onto it again, hello. Click onto it again, goodbye, and then hello. And every time I click onto it, I can make it go back and forth, right? So it doesn't matter how many times I click onto it with that little if statement, okay? To write this nicer, like I said to you before, instead of all these lines, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines. I can change this back into one line, and the way I would write that is this: hello label dot text is equal to, right? And again, in brackets, I would do this test. So this exact test, I would take this and put. I can even not have it in brackets, but I like put it in brackets because it makes sense. I'll use the question mark, and then the result, which would be goodbye. That's if it's true. If it's hello world, and otherwise is the colon, and then it's hello world, right? So hello world is all one line, right? There we go. And of course, a semicolon would be good to finish it off, the expression, and then I get rid of all this. So one line to rule them all, right? Borrowing from, Lord of the Rings, right? Why would we do it this way? It's more efficient, right? Is it as readable? No, it's not. But if you know the ternary expression, it's also called ternary expression, or the ternary operator, then you would be very familiar with this format. And I've done it a couple times in this semester as well, and both on JavaScript and C#. We've done it on both sides, right? So you can see that this is a very useful operator. It also is the same for C++, C, Java, and all kinds of C-influenced languages, even Swift, right? So I think this is a pretty good one. Let's test it first to make sure it's working, right? One thing to do it, the other one to test it. So if I click onto it, you can see that it turns back to the same thing. And so it does the same as if I had 3 lines. Nice, nice. I like it. But what if I had 3 more buttons I want to add on? I have to do all this work. Whew, look at all this stuff, right? It's insane. How could I chop this down and so I can have reusable code? Of course, a class. So let's add another class. Now this is, again, classes 101 with end modules with TypeScript, right? Remember, there's several steps to do to make this work. Here's step 1. Whenever we make a module or we want to split across different files, we need to put it somewhere. And I've got a folder called objects. That's where I'm going to put my new button object. We got label, a label.ts. I'm going to make another one, a new file, and I'm going to call this button.ts. Okay, so I want to make a button class. When I make a button class, I want to add it to the module objects. So all I have to do is define the module. So I use the module keyword. This is all TypeScript, module. And I use the name of that I want to add. Now before I had it, by the way, if I look at the label at the top, I said objects, right? Well, I might as well use the same one. And I can declare the same module over and over again, and all it's going to do is add my class to that module. It'll keep on adding to the same module over and over again. So it's type safe this way. So if I sit there and go, well, module objects, I'm going to add to the module objects. And inside module objects, I'm going to export. Export is the key word to expose the class that I want inside the module. Otherwise, it's a closure, and you can't see anything. It's equivalent to a closure, right? Just like we did that iffy. It'll be another iffy in that module, and you can't see anything outside of it unless we put the export keyword. So it exports a class that's named button. Right, here's a button class, which extends the CreateJS.bitmap what it does. So it takes bitmap, the bitmap we made, and we make a new button out of the bitmap. So our button class is a bitmap. It has an is a relationship with the bitmap class that comes with CreateJS, right? And then we need a constructor, right? Inside of a constructor, we need the URL string, right? That's what we're going to call it. So we're going to say URL string, or the image string, image path string, maybe path string might be better, path string, because it could be not a URL, right? Path string, which would be a type string, right? We need to put that in there, because without a path string, you can't do the super class, which needs a path string, right, for the bitmap to work, because the superclass is calling the superclass's constructor, and since the superclass is a bitmap, it has to satisfy the constructor requirements, which are putting in some kind of path string. So we're passing in the path string that we're going to get from our button constructor to the superclass constructor, right? Okay, hey, might as well get the x and y coordinates. So x and y, which are the the location coordinates of everything, and also is it centered or not? Because sometimes you don't want to have the button centered, which would be a Boolean. Here we go. So those are all the values we're getting in for the button class, and just so we don't copy and paste, we have very similar things going on. Inside my app.ts, I have some stuff here that I want to reuse. For example, all of this. Notice that canvas width and canvas height. In order for me to use that for the button, I'm going to have to expose them, right, here in my IFI, right? Because right now in my IFI, they're there, right? But for them to be useful, for me to use my width and height, right now in my IFI, they're closed up. So what's a better thing to do for myself in this IFI, right? If I want something exposed outside of my IFI, I can expose whatever I want. So we can change my IFI into a module. So this is like where we can go to the next level, right? So I can do something like this. Module, we'll call this the core module, core, right? And what we can do with this core module is just an IFI, right? The core module still uses the last curly brace, but we don't need this piece anymore, right? Here's our core module. Now that I have the core module, I can export anything I want. Like, for example, this canvas width and height. So I can go export. Because this is a module, I can do that now. This whole core module, this is the last piece that you need to know. I can export my canvas width and height so I can use it outside of this IFI, right? And I can export other things too, like the stage, if I want to, right? All right, so now that I've exported, by the way, what does this emit? It emits this. Look, it creates an IFI for me, but it also exposes, right, two things, the core keyword, and on the bottom, if you notice what it returns, it allows me to call, any place I put the export keyword, notice that it says core.canvas.width because it adds it in as a property of the core object that we've created, right? That's what it does on the JavaScript side. So it exposes canvas width and canvas height to the world. So I can know what the canvas width and canvas height is, right? Well, we need this because if I go to my button class and if I want the same kind of code we had in my app.ts, which is way down here, notice that it uses canvas width and canvas height. We need to expose those. I don't want to add it to the stage, but I do want to do all this stuff, right? So I want to copy all this, or cut all this. How about that? Cut all this out, and we'll go to my button class. And then inside my constructor, right, I'm going to paste it. But now it says click me button, and click me button is not exposed. Well, we can replace the click me button with the keyword this, because this button is a bitmap, right? So therefore, it has regex and reg-y values, right? We're doing a class now, right? As opposed to, oops, come on. Copying error, copy paste error. Okay, and core width and core height can't be accessed unless I use the core keyword. So core dot, right? Because it's part of my core module that I just made, right? So now I can expose width and height, right? So core.canvas width, core.canvas height, and you can call it source or core. I like calling it my core module because it's the main module, right? The one that I have my app.ts, okay? So notice that I've done this, canvas width and canvas height, right? And this is neat and all, but this is not what I want. If I don't, I mean, I'm exposing canvas width and canvas height, but really what I want to do is I want to do X and Y to be equal to whatever I get in. So I didn't really have to do that. I just want to show you that how I could do it if I wanted to, right? So here's because I don't want all buttons to be centered. Maybe I don't want them all to be centered, right? But I do want to check to see if I'm asking for it to be centered. So I might want to do something like this. I might want to say if is centered, which we can get from that from the button class. Then I can change the registration values of my button, and only then, because maybe I don't want to center every one of them, right? Maybe some of my buttons I want top left corner, so I have more different control, right? All right, so I've got my button. This is my button class, but I'm still missing a couple things. I want to add my modules, my methods, onto here as well. So let's go to do that as well. So I'm going to go back to my app.ts, right? And I'm going to grab these two mouse over and mouse out events. I'm going to grab these, so cut them out, and go back to my button class. And I want to put them in underneath my constructor, right? So I want to call them underneath my constructor. But first, I gotta bind them inside the constructor, just like we normally do. But again, I can't use click me button. I'm going to use the keyword this, which refers to this button, whatever it's going to be called. Maybe it'll be called the click me button. Maybe it won't. And it won't be click me button over. We'll just call it, you know, mouse over. You could also call it mouse over. I'm going to call this mouse out. I don't have a mouse out, mouse over event. And they're going to be private methods. I know that. I'm going to make them inside my class. So I'm going to use the this keyword to access them. Now, they don't exist yet, but we will add them, right? Again, this is inside my class, right? And this is inside my constructor. So this is the constructor function right here, right? This is my constructor function. Now, what I want is inside here, I want to create a couple methods, right? And we can borrow the information that we have from here. These two methods, click button over and click button out, we're going to copy or cut these out. So cut, and go back to my button class. And remember, and paste. Now, because we're inside of a class, I don't need the function keyword anymore, because TypeScript says that any functions that are listed inside of a class are considered to be methods, right? I need these over and out. This doesn't make any sense. It's going to be this.alpha, this.alpha, right? Because it'll be referring to this button, whatever this button is. It could be something else, right? And one thing I do want to hand over with the on event is definitely hand over a reference to this. This is very important. Otherwise, the context will be lost when it comes to making a class like this. And obviously, they're not called mouse over or mouse out. We'll have to rename them to mouse over and mouse out. And they're going to be private methods as opposed to public methods, because we don't want them to be exposed to the outside world. They're only for our class itself. So I can use the private keyword. That's the beautiful thing. It's very similar to any other programming you've done. To make this, let's just select everything and format. You can see how this is my button class now, right? So my button class starts up here. And as I go down here, I have a couple of methods. They're both private, right? You can see that this method is called the mouse over method, right? Doesn't take any parameters. And this one is called the mouse out method. We'll fix this up in a second, which doesn't take any parameters either, no parameters, and doesn't return anything. Returns void at return, right? At return void, and brackets. We'll just take this, copy it. So you're probably going to mess it up. We messed it up. And then up here, we're going to say something like this event handler triggers when mouse is over the button. And for the same thing, this event will trigger when the mouse leaves the button. Okay, so that's those two events. There's two methods that are inside of my object, but because I've exposed my class, I have access to it now. Okay, so this is step one. When I make a module that's external of my main file, I have to write the module. and I have to use the module keyword and an export keyword for anything I want to export. By the way, none of this is required for your assignment. I'm just showing you how to do it, okay? Because this is TypeScript. Wait, no, you won't have to do it. You can do it all online. You can do it all in the same file. Okay, but you will have to do some kind of button and object on the exam, but it'll be all in line. You don't have to do it. You won't have to do it in a module. All right, I'll give you a bonus for doing it in a module. Okay, so if you do this, if you look at the button object, we're almost complete. We need a couple more steps. One, I have to include it in my index.html, because my index.html is a manifest that holds all my JavaScript files together. If I don't include it here, I won't have access to it, even if I've written it. Doesn't matter. All right, so this is the next step. So I'm going to copy this, and inside of my objects folder, I'm going to reference the button.js file. Okay, that's step 2. Step 3, I need to make a reference to the button inside of my file. So now there's a couple ways to do this, right? I could, at the top of my app.ts, reference the file, like for example, label, like this. And the other way is to create another reference object to reference everything. So for now, I'll just add it in here, and we'll just call this button.ts. Now remember, you're going to have access to all this stuff on the exam. So it's not like you don't know how to make buttons or you don't know how to split across files. All this stuff will be available to you on the exam, worst case. So you have access to it. It's just understanding it, right? That's important. Okay, so I've got my button. Here's a problem. I can't declare this anymore as a bitmap if I want to use my button. My click me button is going to be of type objects.button, right? That's the first change. Second change, when I go back down in here, right? I don't want to leave this as CreateJS bitmap. It's going to be objects.button, right? And because it's an objects.button, remember what I asked for in my requirements, right? If I hover over the button, it tells me all the stuff I need, right? Because I made that my code hinting. I need a path string, an x, and a y coordinate plus is it centered or not, right? So my path string I've already got. My x and y coordinate is going to be, which I've already got, is the width. So if I go into the width of my object, which is canvas width, right, times 0.5. Let's just split it over so you can see it better, right? So we'll do one of these. So canvas width times 0.5. And then the other one would be canvas height times 0.5. And the last one is is it centered or not, which is it's true, it's centered. Okay, cool. Now that I've got all this information and I've created an object called button, I want to add it to the stage as normal, and I want to leave the click event. I didn't define the click event inside the button class because the click events are always going to be different for every button. I'm going to do different things with the buttons. They're not going to do the same thing. But the hover event over and out, that's going to be the same. So why would I want to duplicate that code? I want the code to be the exact same every single time, right? All right, so I save everything. And let's go back to the page and see if it works. First, I want to refresh the screen because I've done some changes, right? So if I hover over, I get the hover over event now. And if I click onto it, it becomes by, right? Let's check to see, because you have to trust me, right? What if you don't trust me? You're like, Tom, I don't trust you. I don't think that the that the button's been split over a bunch of modules, right? Let's take a look at sources. Sources tells us the story of how our app is described, right? So here's our scripts. Underneath that, I have objects, and now I have two objects, a button class and a label class. The button class, if I click onto it, shows me my button that I just made. There's all the stuff in the button class. And in my app.ts, it shows me that I'm using the objects.button to make my button as opposed to the CreateJS.bitmap class that I originally used. Yes? Oh, that's interesting. So you're looking at the JS version you're talking about. Yes, I can certainly show you that. If I look at the button.js, you can see that it's been transpiled from JavaScript, or TypeScript to JavaScript, and I have this little extends method that allows me to use the extends functionality. So it gives me a look and feel of a classical inheritance. I'm inheriting from the original bitmap class that it comes with CreateJS. That's what this extends method does. And if I look back down here, you can see that I can also see that inside my class. So this is the ugly JavaScript we want to avoid in order for us to have the extends keyword working, but we have all that functionality with the button. Okay, cool. So now that I've shown you the button, you also know about bitmaps, right? Because I can move my button around just like I move around my my other objects. Because even though in my app.ts, one more minute, guys. In my app.ts, I have my hello label. Here's my hello label moving around. I can also move my button around the same way. I wouldn't want to, chances are, right? But I could. I can treat my button like any other display object. And all of them have X, Y, regX, regY, and they also have the ability for me to rotate. For example, if I want to rotate the button one time only, not constantly rotating because it would look weird, right? I could. Or on hover, on hover, I want to rotate the button like 15 degrees, or every time I click onto it or hover over it, I want to change the rotation of the button. I could do that in the button state, right? So inside the button, when I hover over, right, I want to increase the rotation. As an example, this is a special effect. So this dot rotation is plus equals to 5 degrees. So I can rotate the button every single time, or maybe more drastic. Let's do it 20 degrees, right? So if I do that and I save everything and I go back to the button class, and then I'll let you guys go. If I hover over, it's going to change every single time a bunch of degrees, because a button is just a display object, and you can do anything you want with this button, even click on it. Questions? So to finish off, remember that next week we'll do a bit of a review on the Monday. When I do the review on the Monday, I'll tell you almost exactly what's going to be on the exam, right? So please take a look at that video, right? So you can do well on the exam, or attend so you can ask questions if you don't understand something. When is your assignment, your final assignment due?
Friday.
Next week, right? Next week, right? So you have another week to do it. So please, if you have any assignment-related questions, Monday would be the day to ask me, okay? Not during the week, because during the week I'm doing other exams. Monday will be the last day, yes?
The review that we do on Monday, is it going to be different than this?
I'm going to talk about jQuery, Ajax, because those things might be on the exam, as well as this stuff here. Might be. I'll talk to you about it on Monday. I'll talk to you about it on Monday. All right? Thanks a lot.